Welcome to the CLSR, and I'm your host, the counselor. Now, today we're going to be talking about that major interview that must have been seen by the whole world. The royal family, the Meghan Markle and the Harry interview with Oprah Winfrey. Now, we got to talk about this. Everybody's talking about it. I think we have to talk about it. And I mean, when I talk about millions of people watching, people were anticipating what's going on with the royal family. And see, there's two sides to this, and we're going to talk about two sides, okay? We have to. We have to talk about Meghan Markle's, her side, and we have to talk about the royal side, right? Like the commoners, right, versus the royals. You understand? Like, we all want to believe, and it's true, if you're a commoner like myself, we all want to believe that when it comes to the royal family, they're really superior than us. Yes, they have a history and it goes back hundreds of years for sure. However, we would like things to change. But first, you got to say to yourself, we all want to believe love is love. And we have to have that belief that love is love. No matter what race, ethnicity, religion, love is love. But here comes reality, gives you a kick in the head. And this interview really woke up a lot of people. Now, not all people. There are some people going, I knew what was going on inside, and we should have known. Well, when it came to Meghan Markle and Harry, it looked good from the outside, but once we started to see them separate, there were a lot of things going on at play here. So let's talk about what's going on with Meghan. Now, I'm going to give you two arguments. One is from the commoner perspective, like what was she thinking? Did she think it was going to be easy for her? Now, let's talk about some of the things that she was talking about. Now, according to Meghan, she got in and she got in out of pure love. And that's the way it's supposed to be. But see, when you're dealing with a dynasty, a monarchy, you got to understand they run things the way they want to run it. And if we're being honest, there's a history here. And see, this is a problem. People get into relationships and they don't realize the history. Now, I got to go back a little bit. I got to touch back. Let's go back a little bit in time. Now, remember, I'm going to give you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. You got to hear it. Because you got to know a little bit of history. Too many of you are jumping into relationships with a little bit of understanding, but you got to know a little bit about your partner, a little bit about the family, a little bit about the history. Well, when you know about that royal family, let's go back a decade or two. And we got to go what happened with Diana. See, a lot of you are surprised what happened with Meghan Markle, but the truth is, let's go back to Diana. What were we all thinking? Lady died. She had some of the same symptoms that Meghan had. All right. And this is the fallout. And see, they didn't learn. See, people who are in love, a lot of times they go in blind because they want to go in blind. See, you get all infatuated with the lights and the stardom and the royal. And you got to look at the history. So let's go back with the history. What was going on with his mother, Harry's mother? Lady Di had a serious situation going on there. She proved. Because remember, she wasn't even considered royalty. They tried to go back into the 14th cousin and all that. But she was more or less a commoner when she married Harry's dad, Charles. And so right there, people thought, oh my God, it's so wonderful that a commoner is going to go into the royal family and it's going to be like us. See, a lot of us try to correlate us, right, with these commoners going, oh my God, that's a dream. We have this dream in our head. Right? We all have these illusions in our mind. We think, oh my goodness, that could be us. We're commoners, and wouldn't it just be lovely if we could just be part of the royal family? Well, I'm going to tell you, you weren't paying attention. And I don't know how many of you are old enough, but you better let the counselor tell you. When it comes to Lady Di, we need to know one thing. She was in a relationship with Charles, Harry's father, and Harry's father was still in love with Camilla, who was basically his age. I'm pretty sure Lady Di was too young for Charles, but that didn't matter to him because he wanted what he wanted anyway. But the point was, he was still in love with Camilla, someone his age, someone who he's with now. But the point was, is that Lady Di was young. She was a commoner. She was used to her freedom. See, the royals don't operate like that. They can't just be around everybody. So what happened with Lady Di? She got in there, got married, and then she got a wake up call. They told her you can't go where you want to go. You can't do what you normally want to do, and life is changing. So that's what makes me ask about the race situation, right? When people see, because black folks will jump on it real quick. See, we knew they were racist. Well, you can jump to that too, but yeah, that's a slippery slope, and we're going to talk about that. So, what happened to Lady Di? Well, according to the reports, Lady Di had died in a car accident. And all of us, and I do mean all of us, were quite suspicious of what really went down. I think everyone knows, whether the news reports it or not. And according to what Meghan said, it seems like the press and the royals get together and have them big parties. So all the information is quite convoluted. So what happened with Lady Di? She ended up getting in a car accident. They give all kinds of excuses why she wasn't strapped in, or the guard, or there was a whole lot of conspiracy theory behind it. But the point was the antecedents. What happened? What was going on with Lady Di prior to her getting into this accident that she got killed in? What were the antecedents, the things that led up? Well, we know one thing. Number one, she wasn't happy. Okay, because she was limited. When you're a commoner, you're used to going to the store and doing your business, you're free. And you don't realize it until someone takes your freedom. So she was free as a bumblebee. But the point was, they told her, we don't do that. You can't be free. Because if you start acting like a commoner, you're commoner. You're not. You're royalty. So she couldn't go anywhere. All right. Oh, she could go on events around the world to represent the royal family, but she couldn't just get out there and go to the local pub and sit around with who she wanted to. And see, this took a toll on her mind, her mental health. She wasn't happy. And see, if you read the book, she was having an affair with the trainer. She even had she had an affair with the doctor, secret affair. No one knew about it till well after. Then she got into an affair with this rich Jody Fayez, I think it was. Excuse me if I didn't get the name right, but he was a rich person. And I don't know if he was uh, where he was from exactly, but he was not from England. He was from another country. Okay? And he was rich, very wealthy family. But see, Diane wasn't happy with the royal family, and she decided, I'm not going to leave, but I'm going to have me an affair. So when she had an affair and started doing what she wanted to do, I think that was frowned upon. And see, this here situation that we got going on with Meghan, that makes you wonder if you put two and two together. See, after she started messing around, it wasn't shortly thereafter that she got into this accident and she was dead. And there was a lot of suspicion. And it went on for years. People were wondering, is there really enough investigation? Well, now that we know from this recent interview, there wouldn't have been no investigation. Not really. The news wouldn't investigate. Why would they investigate themselves? They're working with the royals. They're keeping the royals up on that pedestal. They're going hand in hand. They're having them parties. So you have to go back and see what was going on with Lady Di. Now, do I believe what Meghan said? Yes, I do. I believe all those things happen. You don't need to be a royal to have somebody in the Caucasian family tell you, I'm worried about the shade of my baby. Whether it's right or not, you ain't me and I ain't you, so let's get it real. See, when you marry into a family, a lot of people think, oh, everybody ought to love me and accept me. Yes, that should be, but it's not always the case. There's a lot of times when you marry into a family, right? And you got to love your partner. You got to know who you married. You didn't marry your cousin, your mother, and your father. So that a lot of times, if you're in love, you got to love that one person. If they come along for the ride, that's good. But if they don't, you got to know if you're in love, if it's going to work. See, some people stick it out, and other people let it make them fall out because they can't deal with the family stress and the strain, and they blame the family. No, you need to know when you get into a relationship, just like Harry and Meghan need to know, you need to know, are you in love? Because if you're in love, they're going to be dead and you guys are still going to be alive. You got to live your lives. And you got to decide if that's what you want. And you got to know what you're getting yourself into. See, with the Diana case, that is why I say the royals run things a different kind of way. And see, there's going to be people in America that are going to say, which is really true, Meghan was telling the truth. There were questions about the race, there were limits. She was restricted when she had mental health problems, right? She couldn't go to anyone, there was no help there. See, the royals are going to look at it different because they're going to go, wait a minute. You walked through that door. We didn't walk through your door. You knew what you were getting into. And see, this is what a lot of people are going to say. You should have known what you were getting into. No, it's not right. But let's wake up and see what's really going on here. They are the royals. And you know they're only going to accept you to a certain degree. Now, there's people that got their backs up already and they're saying it's not acceptable. Well, I believe that we all should be human beings, love each other no matter what race, gender, religion, culture. We need to respect and love each other, man, woman, whatever. We need to understand that we should have a natural love for each other. But see, what happens is, I think it's worse when you're in the royal family because that's supposed to be a monarchy that represents the people. And maybe they do represent the people. Maybe they're representing a certain amount of people, right? And it's true. And maybe you needed to realize that when you got in. And there's going to be people that scratch their back and go, wait, you know what? You came to us. We didn't come to you. So this is how we run things. You can use race if you want to use race, but we're not looking at it that way. See, they might be looking at it at a different way, but I don't believe that. I believe they're looking at it the same way. I think it went down the way Meghan said it went down, and people are going to go shame, shame, shame. But at the same time, there's going to be another set of people that go, girl, what were you thinking? You knew what you were getting into. Maybe you went for love and maybe you fell in love with him and maybe just happened to be part of the royal family. But this is the royal family. And this is where I get a problem with people who get into situations and they're dealing with royals or they're dealing with those high profile, executives out there and, the ones with all the power. And you know that they wield this power and you get attracted to it. And then all of a sudden things go wrong. And then you look up and go, why did it go wrong? Shame on them. Well, I know the world should be a peaceful place. But what was being said by Meghan? Meghan was saying some serious things. She was saying she was on the brink. She was on the brink of suicide. Okay? She was at the edge. And when she wanted her help and her support, it seemed like nobody was there for her. And that's not acceptable. But see, the royal family is going to look at it different than you and I may look at it. It's not that simple. To them, they're like, what's the mental health all about? You can go and do what you want to do. You don't need to stay. We're not going to hold you. You can go and do what you want to do. If you got to get out, you got to get out. But guess what? You came in. And you need to know. If we sat you down and told you what was going to happen, then you should know. But guess what? This is how we run things. We're very private people. We like to do things our way, whether it's right or wrong. Okay? And then there's going to be people in North America, they're going to say, Meghan, that is terrible. It's totally wrong what they have done. And there are things definitely that was terrible that should not be going down. Not in 2021. No, we should be thinking about that. What kind of representation do we want? If this world is going to get better, right? How are we going to function if we don't understand that everybody has to open their mind to love and everybody has to open their mind to culture and people have to be accepting? But see, the truth is, there's another side to it. See, there's ones that are upset on both sides of the fence. In North America, there's one saying it's flat out racism, it's ignorance, they should be ashamed of themselves, the royals are representing all kinds of different countries, they're going from country to country, acting like they're the monarchy, and what do they really stand for? And see, this is what's got into question. And we could argue that, because what she said was quite damning. And even Harry, he was talking about how he doesn't even have a relationship with his father. And his father don't even really talk to him. He has a relationship with his grandmother. But the father doesn't even talk. And he was talking about the comments that were made because of the baby. Yes, race matters in society still, and we have to be aware of it. It shouldn't matter as much, but it does matter. And I think we need to wake up. And I think the problem is so for so many generations, we look at it. Race isn't just an excuse. I mean, don't make it one. Understand what you're getting into. Understand, yes, we have to look at these things. But race does matter. People say it doesn't, but it does. Right? People say it doesn't, but it does. And it shouldn't matter to the extent that it does, but it does. And that's the way it is. And we have to work through it. So instead of us just running around going our separate ways, we got to look at what really was going on there. And see, with what Meghan said was so powerful, it's so true. And there's a lot of people in North America saying, I knew it. I don't know what she was thinking anyway. Oh, it was so beautiful. My heart is so broken now. It seemed like a commoner. And when I say commoner and royal family, I'm just using these technical terms because, believe it or not, that's what you people are thinking. You're thinking that this person's a commoner and this person's royalty. And this person's better than these people. And the truth is, they're both human beings. I'm just using terms to get into your psyche to see how most people are thinking. And that's what most people are thinking. Just like they thought when the lady died. They're thinking a commoner got together with the royal, and it's like Cinderella. Like the fairy tale that you've been watching that they told you all about when you was a kid, and you people whose lives are unhappy or you're just into the gossip, and it seems like what 50, 60 million people paid attention. Why? It's no coincidence because some of you are living in a dream world. Some of you want to live vicariously through other people. So you're looking to a situation and you're thinking that it correlates with you and you get your feelings hurt, right? Especially if you're a person of race going, oh my God, that's so sad. It hurts me. Yes, it does. That's the world we got to work on. That's the one we got to demand change. We got to do things. We can't just talk about it. We can't just complain. We got to know what we represent. And it was so interesting because somebody in the news said, you know what? Are we going to expect the monarchy to do the representation around the world, the roles that they do? Are we going to expect that to remain the same because of this? And then there were other ones that came up, even here in Canada, they came up with a million excuses. Well, you can't, like even here in Canada, I'm going to give you a prime example. So there was a conversation the other day where they said, well, you know what? If Canadians, Commonwealth, if Canadians in Canada, they decided, they even asked Justin Trudeau, and you know what Justin Trudeau, as much as the good work that he might do, he didn't come with a clear answer. He came with, it isn't that simple. And I'm saying, I think it has to be simpler than what people make. So the question was, should Canada be still looking up to the royals as the monarchy representing this country, especially in light of what has come to light? And then someone with common sense who's about, hey, we have to respect people. We have to make some change and we got to make some hard decisions. And so one person said, you know what? We have to know we can't accept that. We can't. We cannot accept it. We cannot accept that, the royal family is acting this way and they're going to represent. How is that? What type of message are we sending to all cultures? Black, white, Indian, Chinese, East India, everybody around the world. What does that say if you still have these people on our money representing with these attitudes and these behaviors? Isn't that a falsehood? Isn't that funny? Like you could go around the world, oh, they've done see, and this is the thing. People are saying, oh, they've done wonderful work in the Commonwealth, going from country to country. Yes, you have. But however, oh, we shouldn't just throw that away. But I just got to ask you, but what does it make people in those Commonwealth countries think when you're walking amongst them, not really in your mind accepting them, talking about doing for them? I think if we change this whole attitude, there will be more equality and equity if we said, hey, wait, why are they superior to us? Oh, there's a history behind. Yes, there is a history. Colonization, etc. There's a history. So what's the problem? So when the question was posed, somebody in Canada said, you know what? No, it's not acceptable. But there was a strong argument, supposedly on the other side, that said, wait a minute, we can't just break off with the monarchy like that. There's a history there. And just think about the First Nations people. You know, if the monarchy, and this is true in Canada because there's agreement between them. Think of all the treaties, and the First Nations, and all and I'm gonna say First Nations people, okay, are people, but this is their land. And what had happened is this argument came out, and they said, wait, if the monarchy didn't represent Canada anymore, all those treaties and agreements between the First Nation people, if they broke off, all those treaties, all that land would have to go back to the first, every piece of land in this country. If you broke those contracts and that agreement and the monarchy walked away, that means all the land would belong to the First Nations people. It would have to go back. Everything that's been developed on Canada would have to go back to the First Nations people. So whatever you're paying into now, it would be a tragedy because you'd have to not only give it up, you wouldn't be paying taxes to the Queen or just to the government. You'd be paying taxes to the First Nations people. And maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe it does need to change hands. Maybe the First Nations people, go ahead, monarchy. I know it's a history and I know it sounds crazy, but just think about that. Maybe if this was their land where they, put certain resources. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the truth. And if you love people, all humans, you're going to tell the truth, whether people want to hear it or not. But the truth is, the First Nations, like a lot of cultures, but the First Nations in this country aren't treated right in a lot of areas. The majority of areas, they're not treated right. Terribly. There's certain areas where they're not even getting clean, fresh water. There are people that come from Europe and abroad, come to Canada, and they look abroad and they say, wait a minute, those people are treated terribly because they don't even have fresh drinking water. They got to be boiling water in some communities. The government here isn't taking care of them. So is that really the Queen that's doing that? Is that why even people of color here are struggling half the time because they can't get work because of the preference? Look at Parliament. Maybe Parliament would change. Maybe it would represent the people more. We need more representation. But see, this is the problem. People are giving it, oh, we can't do that because the First Nations would take the. So what? They take the land back. Maybe you pay them taxes because any house, any organization or business, people are still in. It's not yours. It's not your business. The houses that you own. This is an example. In Canada, if you have a house and you pay property tax, right? That contributes to society, etc., etc. That isn't your home. You could have your mortgage paid off. You could have no payments with your house, but you still got to pay what? Property tax. So who really owns that house? You don't own it because if you listen, you can pay your mortgage off, and then you say, "Oh man, this is my house. It's so wonderful." And then if you don't pay your property tax, let's say you skip paying property tax for 2 years, and sometimes in some provinces it's 2 years. You don't pay no property tax for 2. Who's gonna come in and take that house that you done spent 30 years paying off? The government, because you don't own it. You might have that little building on the land. You don't own nothing. And you know how you should know that is because if they have to do highways or streets or any structure for the people, they will tell you get up and move that house. So you don't own it anyways. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of change that needs to happen. And this Meghan Markle interview is bigger than we even care to believe. But it could be a subject like most subjects. So what I'm saying, what we need to think about is, yes, there are going to be ramifications if there's some change, but sometimes there needs to be some change. Things should not just be going on the same. As the population grows, the people need to know. They need to know what's going on, who's representing. Right? Some of these young people out there, they're talking about some of these young brothers out there doing killing and all this foolishness. They ain't getting jobs. What are they doing? They're doing. It's no excuse, people say, but it is. It's a reality. If I don't get it this way, I'm getting it that way. I ain't making no excuse. It's in every country. And I'm not saying everybody, no, I'm saying if you don't give them this, they're going to get it some way. We have to start looking at people and going, look, there are things that need to change. And when it came to this interview, there's a lot of people watching and a lot of people giving excuses. And I'm going to tell you, look, there's two sides. There's the Meghan and Harry side, which is the true side. And sometimes it can get real complicated, but this one's simple. People see she laid it on the line. She told people what they had to hear. She told them what it was. And there's a lot of people going, "Oh my goodness, that's so terrible. How dare they?" Well, how dare they for a lot of reasons, but that's no different than somebody operating a business and discriminating and let that foolishness going on in these jobs. And that's what happens even over here. There's organizations up here running around, and even the power of human rights in this country is a joke. You get discriminated against at work, you call human rights, oh, we'll look into it. You don't hear back from those people for months. They ain't looking for equality. We need representation. We ain't getting it. We ain't got it. And the royal family should be a wake-up call for a lot of young people out there. Stop waiting for change to come, because it ain't coming unless you make it. Make your organization. Stand up for your right, because if you don't, somebody will. And it'll be the same old, same old. And see, when I talk about the Meghan Markle, nobody, there's a lot of people who wasn't surprised. And there's a lot of people even pointing the finger at Meghan, go, girl, what were you thinking? Were you thinking that you was going to, we love to believe it, but girl, were you thinking that you were just going to walk into the royal family and be like them? Maybe that's the way it should be. Family should be family no matter what color. Come on, think about it. And this Morgan Pierce, I think he's a TV personality, an announcer. He was arguing. He was doing some swashbuckling on TV. I think his name's Morgan Pierce, and he just quit his job because what happened was there was somebody. He's in the news, morning news in the UK and England, and he was all upset because he was kind of saying, you know, there were two employees working at this news station, and Morgan Pierce was saying, Meghan this, Meghan that, Meghan this. Okay. And he got challenged, and the guy said, look, you're trashing Meghan for a lot of different reasons. You shouldn't be doing that. And he's right to a certain extent. But see, you also got to look at Morgan Pierce's perspective too. He only knows what he knows, and he knows that this is and from his perspective, this is the royal family. And what were you expecting, Meghan? You know, and I'm not blaming, I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm going to say there's two sides here going on. We could get mad. Yes, you shouldn't be trashing her, but you got to know where you're at and what you're doing and who you're doing it with. And that's the problem. And my problem is we should all get along. It shouldn't be that nasty, but maybe this is a wake-up call that this is what happens on every level, not just the royal level. There are families that get along, but there's some problems that lie within. And this is conflict. But see, Morgan Pierce, he got upset. He's like, I quit. Because somebody challenged him and said, hey, wait, maybe you shouldn't be trashing her. Maybe this isn't the way it should be. But for him, he's the older generation, and he said, that's how we do it here in England. She went to England. She shouldn't be crying about this. And, you know, there are some people that may say, as wrong as Morgan Pierce is, hey, it isn't as easy as black and white, because he might be saying, but Lady Di had a problem too. And what was she crying about? She was a commoner that got into the royal family, and she had her problems and struggle. See, did they not understand what the royals were about? You can't be a commoner and be a royal. You got to switch gears. You got to know what it's about. It's about obligation and representation. You are going around the world. You are going to be limited, and boo-hoo for you. This is what's been going on in the family for generations. Charles has to do. You heard what Harry said in that interview. Harry said his brother, he goes, I feel sorry for my brother and my father. And Oprah said, why do you feel sorry for your brother and your father? He said, because they're trapped. And a lot of you are sitting up there eating your popcorn, choking on your popcorn, trapped. I would love to be trapped that way. But no, it's not true. That's not what he means by trap. Trap means you have an obligation. You're born into the royal family. This is something that's been going on for centuries. You have an obligation, a representation, and a history. and it's a family culture, and you are dedicated to go out there and serve and provide. So I can't diss the royal family. That's what Morgan Pierce is coming from. But the other brother was right. Too bad. That is going on. See, it's not just black and white. He was like, don't be dogging her because, you know what I mean? But he's like, look, this is how we roll. But there was some plain ignorance in it. And that's where Morgan Pierce is getting caught up in. He doesn't understand that times have to change. Yes, it's been like that for hundreds of years, but times have to change. And people say, no, it don't. Over there, it don't. Over there, it don't. But times are going to change. Do you understand? But whether you want them to, or whether you give an excuse, but the point is that Meghan's husband, Harry, said they're trapped. And if you're thinking about it, there's two sides to that trap. There's trap, oh my God, I feel like they're trapped. They really can't do anything. It's a business. It's a firm. Like they gotta represent. And I think when his dad's not getting along with him, because the dad's probably saying, man, this is a commitment. This is a commitment that we've had for years. I've committed my life to it. I go around. If there's some things we can do, we do. I'm not saying the royals haven't done good things. And should we wipe it all up? No. We shouldn't wipe it away and go, oh, you know what? Let's just ignore what has happened. But we have to move forward and we have to make adjustments. And I think that's what needs to happen. But when he says they're trapped, a lot of you are sitting at home choking, like I said, thinking, oh my God, those poor guys are trapped. That's their commitment. They're the royal family. They're not like you and me. If a Hollywood star was living on your block, they wouldn't be a star anymore. They wouldn't be unique. You wouldn't be looking up to them. If Brad Pitt lived on your block, you'd be throwing rocks at them. They don't go around us. They do things differently. They operate differently. See, even when you think of a Brad Pitt, right, or a Denzel Washington, they are in their craft. They're committed to their craft. They have commitments. You think it's about money. That's what they love to do. They've committed to it. So there's certain expectations like a Denzel Washington or a Brad Pitt or Andrew Jolie or all these superstars out there. They're committed to their craft. And that's the commitment. That's the expectation. So when people hire them to work on movies and that, they don't say, oh, you're going to go here and do that. And as much freedom as they have, this is the expectation. Can they go and do what they want? Yes, they can. But you have to give up that what? That's stardom. You have to give up that freedom. If you know what I mean, you got to commit if you're going to be in it. And that's like the royal family. This ain't no joke. This is like a membership. And she got to know it. Can she change it? Sure. Don't walk away from it. If you want to make change, you just be like, no. I'm going to let the world know. But yes, she let the world know. And that's something to know. It can't just be gossip, people. There has to be some reality coming in. And what I'm saying to you is there are two sides to this story. And I've given you one side. In the North American, I ain't even done giving you the North American side. But I can tell you something right now. There's some ignorance going on. And the royal family should be, let's make it clear. The royal family should be accepted. If you're going to walk around other countries, commit, do some obligation, do some charity, or represent and be royal, you have to be royal in your decision making to change as the time change. And you got to be accepting those people. How are those people going to look at the royal family now? They're going to look at them and say, well, wait a minute. You might be doing this work, but I might know what you think of me. And I don't like it. And there are people, and there's going to be Commonwealth countries that are going to push back and go, it's not acceptable. And I don't blame them. But like I said, there's the other side to this coin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, you know the counselor's on top of this, and we got lots to talk about. I'm going to part 3. But I'm going to tell you something right now. This part 1, you need to tell your friends. You need to spread the word like the wise old bird, because this is a subject that is so deep. It goes so deep into each country. It touches us all to the core. And the thing about it is, what should we do about these situations? And I'm not just talking about the royal family. I'm talking about integration and assimilation, emancipation, freeing the mind, opening up your mind to change, and letting love ring. For real. Is that what's going on? And you know what? You can't stop cultures from growing. And you're not going to stop people from knowing. But that's not it. It's when we do become aware of some of the issues in society. Is it just entertainment? Or are we actually looking at ourselves in society and saying, wait a minute, what can we do to make the situation better? And we're going to talk about that in part 3. What should be done. But I still want to cover part 2 because I think that on the other side, there's information on the other side that needs to be discussed. What were the Brits thinking? What is going on now? And what will Harry and Meghan do next? Because we're going to cover some details that they talked about in our next session. So I want you to stay tuned. All right, take care of yourself, people.